Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start a recording. I'm going to be showing you today how to set up an Ipro scan project and going through some of the options. This is obviously the desktop. I've cleared it up of a lot of stuff, but we have our Ipro launcher right here. So we're going to be going into Ipro scan, and we'll probably do a map of this at some point in the future, but we'll take a look at the Ipro scan options. So just going across the top, this is the step-by-step process. So first you scan, then you run TeamQC. If you had folders to code, you would code your folders here. Then you do statQC, and then you commit. So Ipro has set these buttons up in a logical order, which is the process of scanning. We're just going to go through our menus real quick. File, login. Obviously, you have to get your login and set up those. You have a project setup option here. You can do some of these additional functions, verify CD, print from CC. Ipro Scan has a lot of options that the full suite of Ipro also has. Most of these are better done inside of the full suite of Ipro. And then, of course, you can print your prep sheets if you're prepping your documents and using slip sheets for doc breaks. Under reports, you can run reports on any of your projects. This can give you some detailed information about how long it took to scan, etc. This is where you set your drivers for your scan equipment. We typically scan with Twain drivers, but Kofax is also a slightly better driver that's somewhat expensive that can do some interesting things. And then obviously if you need help, you can get help. So we're going to go into this file project setup, and we're going to start setting up a project. So I'm going to set up a project from scratch. Most often you can create a template project and just use that template project. So we're just going to create a new project. We're going to call this 00 underscore template. What this is going to do is it's going to put it at the top of the list because it's in alphabetical order, and we're just going to create a template project. Normally we would apply these settings. That's why you use a good template that you can transfer you can transfer over most of the settings. But for this, since we're going to be setting it up from scratch and going over all the options, we're not going to apply those settings. Okay, so this is a description. I believe it is required. You can just say scan QC export or some description of the project. The scan directory is where Ipro will store your scanned images. There's sort of a debate about whether you should have your scan and commit and build directories on different machines so as to maximize each machine's capability. If you're scanning and then committing on the same machine, it's just copying it from one location to another, and sometimes that can take a little longer. But however you have your Ipro structured, your scan directory is going to be where you want those images to be stored. In my architecture, I just have a scan directory where I keep all of those projects on my P drive. Commit directory is once you've finished scanning and you enable commit, it's going to copy those images to a new location in a different structure. And again, in my structure, in my architecture, I have a commit folder. These are on the same computer, the same drive, so so that's the way I set it up. Volume name, template 001 is fine. However, because we have Ipro's full suite, we don't use all of these features. This could be used to simply create commit volumes that can be delivered to clients. We typically build things out because that gives us more flexibility. So we just set our max megabytes at 999, and that way it doesn't fill up. Project status is active. You can inactivate projects if you keep track of them that way. And do not delete batch images on commit if you don't, typically what it does is when you scan the directories into the scan folder and then commit them to the commit folder, it's going to delete these scanned ones to save space, and only have a copy in the commit. If you do check this, it's going to have problems uncommitting batches if you ever need to do that. Boundaries, so these are pretty important, and it gives you some default source, box, folder, parent, child, and this is a hierarchy of different boundary levels. So a parent document can have 5 children, a folder can have 5 parent documents, a box can have 5 folders, and a source could have 5 boxes. For given your project instructions, you're going to select which folder, parent, and doc boundaries you want. So we're just going to select folder, parent, and doc. Okay. This is very important that you set these before you link to an Ipro View project. When you click that, it's going to ask to create an Ipro View project, and it's going to grab whatever boundaries you've selected and pull them into your Ipro View project. So it's important that you select these correctly before you select your Ipro View project, or else if you go back and change and add a folder boundary to your project here, it's not going to add it to your Ipro View project. So when you commit, it's going to give you an error that says, I'm committing to a project that does not have a folder boundary. What do you want me to do with these folder boundaries? So that's the idea. We're going to go ahead and create a project, create a new project. Ipro's smart. It's going to grab your template project name and carry it over. And you can see the boundaries that I was talking about, folder, document, child, it's created them automatically here. Here's where you could add an info only field, let's say tab, and change Ipro project options, and that's beyond the scope of this video. Oh, doesn't like commas. There you go. So we'll go ahead and get rid of those commas there. Okay, image key setup. We're going to spend a decent amount of time on this. Issue tag setup, we're not going to set up any issues. So let's go back to image key setup. So a typical image key is going to include a prefix and some separator, and then some number of digits. And then because of the way Ipro scans, you're going to have a suffix. Okay, and I'm putting that in parentheses not because it goes in parentheses, but because that's optional. So if this is the image key that we want to set up, we need to break this into sections. Okay, so this img, okay, is the key. I'm sorry, is the prefix. Okay. This is the separator. This is the key. We have another separator, and we have a suffix. Okay, so Ipro is asking you in these segments and descriptions to break down the segments of your image key. IMG is going to become, I'll just set this so that we can see it. We can probably set it down here. There we go. Description. So we're going to call this first section prefix. Okay. The type is very confusing. Once you set your types, you can pretty much leave it and use your template, but you have to have it set correctly or it will cause major problems in your project. So the types we're going to go through, and if you can see up here, alpha means that it will accept numbers and letters. Numeric means that it will only accept numbers. Okay? These two, numeric and alpha, are constant fixed prefix numbers or letters. Okay, so if you select alpha, you can put in IMG, you can put in DTI, you can put in some prefix, or numeric, you can set your prefix to 953, but it will not count, it will not be a counter, it will not change. So every single image will have the same prefix. So alpha and numeric, very important, those are for prefixes. Page is a counter. So anytime that you want a key, you're going to be using that page. There are two different types of suffixes. S suffix gives you allows alphanumeric suffixes, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, A, B, B, C, C, D, D, etc. So S for suffix is the is a counter that uses alphanumeric counters. X is a little more normal. It's a numeric suffix. It's only going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to force your suffix to numeric. And then we're not going to use folder information only, but those are different ways to capture data. So prefix, what do we want? We want alpha because we're going to be using an IMG prefix. It requires alpha characters, and so our type is alpha. Is it required? Do we have to have a prefix? Sure, yes. Length. What is the length? 1, 2, 3, IMG. So our length is 3. Fixed. Does it always have to be 3? Could we sometimes have IM and sometimes have IMG and sometimes just have I? No. We want it to be fixed. We want it to be IMG all the time. Do we have a separator? So in this case, we, just for purposes of showing you, we have had a separator here. So we're going to go ahead and pop in that separator. Okay. Next, now we're working on the key. Just going to call it key. Type, can you remember? It's page. So this is a counter. It's going to be page. Is it required? Yeah, you gotta always have your image key. The length in this case, because we've selected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros and a 1, a 6-digit counter, we're going to create a length of 6. Is it fixed? Does it always have to be 6 digits long? Absolutely. Very important that this is always yes for your image key, or else it's going to, if you have a 5-digit counter and a 6-digit counter, those numbers are going to interweave in a very bizarre way that I will show you later. And the separator is going to be this guy right here. Okay? And then finally, we want a suffix. Okay? The type, we could do either S for suffix or X for numeric suffix, but we're going to go ahead and do X because counting 1, 2, by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a lot easier than counting A, B, C, D. How many suffixes would you have if you had a J? I don't know. All right, length, we're going to do 2, okay? Hoping that if you have to insert pages for your suffix, the pages that you insert will not have to be more than 99 pages. If you had more than 99 pages that you needed to insert, it would run into weird numerical errors. Okay? And then that is our image key setup. Just going to sample it. Okay, and then here we are. So AAA, page, and then 2 suffixes. It looks similar to how we want it. IMG dash 000 dot 001. Okay, and this is, of course, that suffix. We're going to get rid of that in commit. Issue tag setup. We're not going to set up issue tags for this. Folder manifest. This is where you would create, for example, if you were doing a binder and you were capturing the tab 1, 2, 3, tab exhibit 1, exhibit 2, exhibit 3, you could capture that. That's going to pop up during scanning. If, for example, you were coding the box label and the folder label and the tab then you could set up multiple coding fields, and sometimes clients require that. We're going to set up a tab just as an example. Okay. So these are your processing options. We do want to allow renumber keys. We're not going to really use level codes. We do want to allow physical rotation of images, and we're not going to OCR batches for this, and we're going to choose medium color quality. Okay, so all of these options are pretty standard, and if you get into manipulating these, then you'll know more than I do. Export options. So we do want to export single page TIFFs. We do definitely want to use the key for the file name. That way it's easy to keep track. It's going to be that IMG number, not some random counter. Ipro scan allows you the option to create client deliverables and burn in your Bates number or burn in your confidential message. But because we have the full suite of Ipro, we are not going to use those. And then again, because we're not creating client deliverables out of the scan utility, we don't really need to worry about load file options. But most of what you do in Ipro, the full suite, can be done in these inside of scan only. So we're going to go ahead and save, and we've created a project. Now, from now on, if I want, I can use this template that has all my proper settings, and when I create a new, and I'm going to do test 0001, okay, and it's going to ask me to apply the settings from my template because it defaulted at the top, and I'm going to apply my template, and now all of my settings that I just selected, the image key, the coding fields, the export options, are going to be applied to the next project. I highly recommend you set up a 00 template folder. File that's going to allow you to quickly set up projects and make sure that you're not making any egregious errors. All right, so I think that is it for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.